You ever have one of those moments where you walk into your own house and there's a total stranger standing in your kitchen, just chatting away, acting like they belong there? Yeah, that actually happened to me. And let me tell you, what came after. Well, if you think HOA Karens are bad, just wait. Sometimes the universe serves poetic justice hotter than a campfire coffee on a frosty mountain morning. So let me back up a sec. About 3 years ago, I bought this cabin up in the mountains. Nothing too fancy, just 2 bedrooms, decent view, plenty of quiet. My wife and I needed a place to escape city life now and then, breathe real air, let the dog off leash without some neighbor calling the cops, you know? Anyway, the place sits in this community called Pine Ridge, which, yeah, has an HOA. Back then, I figured, no big deal. Maybe they'll keep the roads plowed and the riffraff out. Boy, was I in for a treat. See, Pine Ridge has its own flavor of HOA queen bee. And her name, well, let's call her Karen. Because if ever there was a walking, talking meme of an HOA president, it's her. Picture the type who still brags about being senior year hall monitor. She'd been running the show for 6 years when I bought in, and right from my first visit, she appeared like a cartoon villain, clipboard in hand, rattling off rules about firewood stacks, bird feeder colors, noise levels, parking, you name it. 15 rules in under 3 minutes. All I wanted was a little peace, but she made it crystal clear. Pine Ridge was her kingdom, and we were just paying rent on her good mood. At first, I tried to ignore it. I mean, how bad could it be? I only planned to come up twice a month. Keep my head down, grill a steak. Watch the stars, simple, right? Except Karen had other plans. Every weekend I showed up, she showed up too. Poking around the property line, measuring my deck chairs, snapping photos of my woodpile. Always a new infraction. Once, she spent 20 minutes with a tape measure because she said my lawn chairs might be encroaching on the setback. I sat there with my book, thinking, this lady is seriously out here on a Saturday morning, measuring furniture for fun. But the real turning point, the spark that set this whole thing ablaze, was the shed. I wanted a simple shed for my tools. Checked every rule, filled out every form, even hired a contractor a neighbor recommended. Shed matched the exact size, color, and distance requirements. Karen denied it anyway. Aesthetic harmony, she said, whatever that meant. When I appealed, the whole board, Karen and her 2 loyal sidekicks, upheld her decision and suggested future applications should show community spirit. I mean, come on. The thing sat in my garage for 2 months while I tried to figure out what shade of brown would make Karen happy. But then, life threw me a curveball. My mother-in-law ended up in the hospital. We packed up fast and left early, which meant the cabin sat empty for a bit. I forgot my charger, so a couple days later, I drove back up, planning to grab it, maybe take in a few quiet minutes before heading home. That's when it happened. I walk in, and boom, there's 3 total strangers in my living room, chatting over coffee, acting like this is a timeshare. At first, I thought I'd been robbed, but they had suitcases, car keys, the whole 9 yards. When I asked what they were doing, they told me, completely innocent, they'd rented the cabin from Karen on a vacation website, showed me the receipts and everything. My jaw about hit the floor. Karen, the self-appointed ruler of the HOA, had been using my place as her own Airbnb goldmine. She told these folks the owner was never around, just in case we bumped into each other. I'll admit, there's a moment in your life when you realize someone's been tracking your every move just to make a buck, and it's not the good kind of adrenaline. I calmed the guests down, told them they weren't in trouble, but they needed to leave. Then I got to work. That night, I scoured the internet. Sure enough, there it was, my cabin listed on 3 different sites under Karen's name, photos she'd taken, detailed descriptions of the cozy little touches my wife and I had picked out ourselves. Premium rates, 5-star reviews, for a place she didn't even own. And judging by the booking calendar, she'd been at it for months. Most people would call a lawyer or the cops right then. Me? I got curious. Pulled up the HOA covenant, looking for a rule, any rule, about short-term rentals or business use. Jackpot. Section 12. No commercial activity without board approval. Section 15. No unauthorized use of community amenities by non-residents. $500 fine per incident, plus legal fees, plus possible removal from the HOA. Karen had broken both, again and again. I documented everything: screenshots, reviews, booking dates, even guest Instagram posts of them hiking the community trails. Then, with a sense of satisfaction I still can't quite put into words, I filed a formal complaint against Karen. As HOA president, she had to investigate herself. It was beautiful. 40 pages of documentation, photos, payment records, the works. Sent it to every board member, demanded a hearing. But while I was waiting, I dug a little deeper. Turns out, Karen had been whispering to neighbors about absentee owners, trying to lay the groundwork for rules that would punish people like me. Basically, she was inventing reasons to justify her theft, turning the whole community against anyone who didn't bow to her. The hearing? Oh, it was glorious. Karen was forced to recuse herself. But the mess of her own making caught up with her. The other board members could barely follow the rules she'd written. She tried every excuse in the book, said she was helping the community, that she'd used the rental money for improvements, which, obviously, she hadn't, that I was neglecting my property. But I had the goods. Dozens of rental transactions, unauthorized guest use. Every last violation. The fines alone stacked up to over $15,000. Then came the kicker. Per HOA rules, the violations had to be reported to local law enforcement. Karen, who'd lorded the rules over us all, was about to get the full legal spotlight. But she didn't stop. A few days later, her listings were still up. She'd even raised her rates. So I got creative. Booked my own cabin for the weekend. Under a fake name. Paid in full. Showed up Friday. Parked down the street. Watched Karen let herself in to set up for the guests. Then I knocked on my own door, holding up my rental confirmation. The look on her face, if you could bottle pure panic and regret, that was it. She sputtered, tried to blame me for ruining everything. Even claimed her scam was good for the local economy. I sat in my own chair and told her, according to your listing, the owner's rarely around, so I think I'll extend my stay. That was the end of the show. She left, fuming, and I spent a peaceful weekend at my own place. Next morning, I filed a second complaint. Karen was still renting even after being busted. Then I went to the police. Turns out, she'd been pulling the same stunt with other absentee owners all over Pine Ridge, collecting spare keys for maintenance, then using them to run her illegal Airbnb empire. The cops got involved fast. The HOA changed every lock in the neighborhood, warned all the owners, and banned Karen from holding any position ever again. The new board, the kind that actually wants to improve things, approved my shed, apologized for the aesthetic nonsense, and asked if I'd help rewrite the rules to protect everyone. Turns out, there were never any implied standards. Karen just liked the power trip. She ended up pleading guilty, community service, probation, restitution, lost her real estate license, banned from running rentals. Had to sell her own cabin just to pay the fines. Meanwhile, I still own my cabin. Visit when I want, and enjoy a community that finally feels like a place worth relaxing. You know what's wild? I never had to stoop to her level. Never broke a rule, never raised my voice. I just used the same procedures she tried to weaponize against the rest of us. Sometimes the best way to deal with a petty tyrant is to let them hang themselves with their own rope and hand them the not if you have to. So here's my question for you. If you found out someone in your neighborhood was running a whole side business with your property, would you fight fire with fire? Or just pack up and move? Drop your wildest HOA or bad neighbors stories in the comments. Seriously, I want to know how you'd handle it. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me what you think. Is justice sweeter when you play by the book, or do you prefer a little creative payback?